All right, well, attendees continue to pour in here. How about we kick off with an AI joke?
Yes, please.
You're down? Okay.
Yeah.
What's the difference between an AI and a contractor?
I don't know what did it say.
A contractor will eventually admit when they don't know how to do something.
What did you use to ask that?
That one is actually Gemini. I asked. I went with chat. In terms of joke quality, I will say Gemini maybe has the edge. And a lot
Top
of other
notch.
things I like
Yeah.
GPT better, but for the jokes, I'd probably go Gemini. Of
Yeah, I rate my programs on joke quality, not IQ. That's what matters to us, right?
course.
Uh,
What's content generation without a sense of humor? Um, all right, we are 2 minutes past. I think we can get things started here. Welcome everyone to this exciting webinar on AI. Is AI the employee you didn't know you need? My name is Mohit. I'm the Senior Director of Product here at BuildOps. For anyone who's not familiar with us, we're an all-in-one operation solution for the commercial contractor. My role is leading the research part of our vast research and development team, and that includes the implementation of AI features into the platform. And I'm very excited to be here today with Patrick Scarpati. Patrick, if you want to do a quick introduction.
sure. I am the Director of Construction Technology and Innovation at Associated Builders and Contractors. That's ABC for anybody familiar with that on the call. I know we'll get into ABC in a second here, but essentially with my role, I'm part of a small department where we're always on the lookout for innovative technologies happening in and around the construction industry, how to introduce that not just to contractors and to our chapters, but how to implement that down into the educational workspace, though, through workforce development, and then just continue to create partnerships like we have with BuildOps and connect you guys with the contractor. So if you want to actually jump to the next slide here, just a little bit more about ABC in general. So we are a national construction trade association. We have 23,000 member companies. So those aren't individual members; those are member companies. So we could do the math and figure out the individuals. We don't need to do that right now, but essentially those members are spread out throughout 68 chapters. You can see this cool little map actually on the screen. We have various regions. Maybe your company is by one of these chapters, or maybe you are a member. Thanks for that. But you can see we're broken up into various categories in order to represent the industry in the most appropriate way. So we have government affairs, health and safety. Obviously, health and safety, that's got to be number one across the board, no matter what. Technology innovation, workforce development, and then, of course, the member employee value proposition. Like, why is it important to become an ABC member? So if you want to jump to the next slide, we're going to just focus on the technology and innovation aspect, right? So this is the area that I live and breathe in, right? And this just highlights some of the resources that we have made available, not just to ABC members. I think what I'm looking at on the screen here is actually to the public. Again, we want to be a voice for the industry, right? So we have our Tech Alliance, we have our Tech Marketplace, obviously BuildOps, very familiar with both of those. It's we don't treat that like a billboard for companies. If companies sign up to be part of the marketplace or alliance, like it's more of a partnership, and we're able to have conversations like this, right? We're literally on this webinar right now, and we can put you guys in front of contractors, whether it's presentations or put you in the classroom to help educate the next generation, right? We have other resources we put together. Most recently, artificial intelligence. I think we have a slide on that later on. We can get into that. Well, this whole presentation's on AI, right? So I don't need to say anything about that. Nothing. We have one on cybersecurity as well. These are websites, again, publicly available. With cybersecurity, construction is still at the top of the list for ransomware attacks. So we're always on the lookout for how to better protect your companies, right? We come out annually with a tech report. So, in the most recent one, this is full of case studies from other contractors and a couple software companies as well. But they just tell their story on things like going through a CMMC process, that's related to cybersecurity, or how am I training my company on how to use technology, right? Just as simply as that, or how am I rolling out technology, whether it's iPads or a project management solution or something safety related to drones, right? What's your drone program look like? So, we put the voices into this report, and then, they're always willing to talk to anybody. So this is just a really quick flyover of what we offer.
Awesome.
But again, we're the voice of the industry, and we're just trying to help educate everybody. So let's move on here. Let's get into it.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. And of course, we are honored and privileged to be ABC partners. And
Yeah.
I was particularly excited to learn, Patrick, that you're actually a licensed journeyman. And a lot of the things that we're about to talk about today are kind of, some tools that you wish you had when you're out in the field. So yeah, excited to just get into it here. To quickly just go over the agenda for today, we're going to talk about why embracing AI is a must. We've gone through the age of computers, the internet, and now we're here in the age of AI. We're going to talk about how AI is changing the way is changing the trades industry overall, and how do you choose which AI is best for your company and when. So those are the broad topics we're going to cover today. And with that, the Q&As should now be open. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in there, and we'll try to take them as we go. And we'll also make sure we have time at the end to cover any questions we haven't been able to cover yet. And with that, let's first get a poll going. I'm going to start a poll here about what is your biggest challenge in scaling your business. So the poll should now be active. All right, we're seeing the votes now pouring in. Finding skilled labor is getting a lot of activity, doing more with less, managing costs. Skilled labor by far is ahead of everything here. We're seeing.
Man.
Yeah, I don't want to bias the vote and just get people into voting in one direction. So I'll mute for just a couple more seconds here while votes are still pouring in.
Yeah, no, here it looks like we can't vote, but I tell you, if I were to vote here, we'd
Yeah.
probably be doing more with less right now.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I think we have reached the end of the poll here. I see still there's a couple pouring in, but just to go over the results here, 65%, 66% now say finding skilled labor is their biggest challenge in scaling their business. Managing costs is at 9%, doing more with less at 20%, and then 6% say other. Awesome. Well, those are some great insights going into the first part of the webinar here, why embracing AI is a must. Patrick, you want to take a stab at answering that question?
Yeah, I mean, this obviously kind of swings into the poll question. And, with kind of touching on that again, real quick, with the skilled labor stuff, it's always we're in between, like, well, I need skilled labor, but I also need experienced labor, right? And there can be a difference between the two, and they seem to be hard to find right now, right? So there's plenty of opportunities here, especially for AI to jump in. So a neat little graphic here. We have one graphic. There's about to be another one as well. So from IBM, just kind of highlighting what percentage of companies are using AI in 2024. I mean, it might look surprising that 77% are saying that, oh, we're using some form of AI, right? What are the details of that? We're not too sure. It could be anything, whether it's generative or predictive analytics related, right? Who knows, right? But people are obviously interested, just like we are, while we're on this call. And just like the internet, actually, I think there's been a picture floating around online of a picture of a newspaper article that came out years ago when the internet started popping up in the public sector. And it was like, oh, the internet's just a fad. It's not going to hang around. Well, that sounds like it was a false headline, right? It's perhaps AI is gonna fall into that category. It's here, right? Yeah, it's getting a lot of hype right now, but it sounds like it's going to be hanging out because it's essentially it's impacting us already, whether we know it or not. So, integrating that, don't think of it as a hesitation. Maybe we're falling behind, right? Let's continue to educate and embrace it, right? And I mean, I like that this last bullet point here, the cornerstone of next gen success, right? Going back to the skilled labor stuff, you can. I think the next slide is an updated graphic, Mohit, with the same bullet points. So you can go to the next one, right? Your computer would not survive, your company will not survive without computers, right? It's so true. Granted, in construction, we're still pushing towards complete digitization of our workforce, right? Laptops on job sites, iPads in buildings as we walk around, right? As simple as that sounds, right? We're still trying to embrace that change. It's a culture shift, right? AI is already embedded into a lot of that. So we just have to remember to keep that in mind. And perhaps these younger workers that we're trying to pull in and attract, they've been working with some of these tools already, right? And they're looking to broaden these ideas further out on the job site, right? I don't know if Mohit, if I missed anything there with these bullet points, you want to chime in at all?
No, I mean, I think you nailed it. I mean, if I were to just kind of look outside our industry and look at the public, public markets and, companies out there that are really in the news all the time, like if that's any indicator, I mean, AI is definitely, here to stay. Nvidia, probably the most talked about stock out there, all being powered through the demand, for AI, open AI, the company multi-trillion dollar valuation, while they're not even a public company yet. It's just there's the trend is definitely here. And I think companies that adopt it earlier on will have the edge. And maybe Patrick, if you could also talk about how is this going to help with the labor gap that we see in the industry?
Yeah, this is a fun graphic here, and thanks again for kind of jumping back into ABC's resources, right? This helps us understand what's going on in and around the industry, just in regards to the spending and the employment, right? And you can see that we need at least 500,000 additional workers on top of the normal pace of hiring in 2024. That has that number changed? I mean, probably it's ongoing. It's an election year, markets are shifting, right? But all we know is that's a huge number, right? We need people. We've always needed people. Um, and it's just going to continue to trend that way, right? So by 2025, that we'll need to bring in nearly 454,000 new workers on top of the new hiring practices, right? And again, dependent on the market conditions, right? Anything could change, but building doesn't look like it's slowing down right now. I'm not an economist. I'm not going to speak, intelligently in that aspect of the world, right? Coming from construction, but what we know is it's very busy right now. Schedules are tight. Budgets seem to be tighter, right? We need to get jobs done. I mean, just think about the affordable housing market, right? Or even just apartments in general. If they're market rate, there's such a high demand for that. And owners are coming in thinking, right, we want to build this, but they need to turn it around quickly so they can get people living in those units and start getting their money back, right? So there's just so much pressure, but there's also so much demand to get this in. So the opportunity is out there. And of course, technology, especially AI, could help at least bring that skills gap tighter together, right? And help upskill our workforce in general. I don't know, Mohit, if you're obviously from your side of the industry, right? From
Mhm.
BuildOps, you get to interact, I'd imagine, with quite a few contractors yourself,
Yeah.
right? Are you hearing some of the same sentiment?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, a lot of what we hear is around the skills gap, like you mentioned, right? How can we use AI to actually close that, and how do we get content to folks in the field in a way that they don't have to spend hours searching through stuff? How do we get information to them to get the work done, as opposed to having to call the office back or to look through again just a bunch of documents to get answers? And I know we're going to cover this a little bit later on in the webinar, but how do we optimize for people's time, right? What's really what's the thing that actually makes them productive versus the things that they just need to get done? And those are some of the ways that, you could get more productivity out of the same workforce. So yeah, we definitely have a lot of questions and conversations around that with our customers. Um, Awesome. Before we get into the next part, just wanted to quickly point out to folks that there should be a Q&A button at the bottom bar where you see the rest of the webinar options. Please feel free to add in your questions there, and we'll be happy to answer them. All right. Getting to the next part here, which is three ways AI is changing the industry today. So I mean, people are already using AI tools. We've seen a couple of examples in the industry. Even us at BuildOps, we've had a couple of feature launches with AI tools, and we've seen how customers have started using them. So that's what we want to really talk about here. Patrick, if you want to kick it off first, just how have you seen AI being used? What kind of tools, what kind of products have you seen out there?
Yeah, it seems like all of us are on the AI hype train, right?
Yeah.
At least I'm speaking from an outsider, right? You seem to be on the more of the inside track. Maybe you're the conductor of the train. I don't know, man. But, um, but yeah, I mean, how is it getting used? I mean, think about it before ChatGPT. I feel like the public had access to it. I feel like, oh my God, I'm talking to AI. I can interact with it. But in reality, it was probably already around in some form or fashion, right? Think about like Amazon, maybe, or Netflix
Yeah.
recommendations, right? Of course, that goes back to algorithms, right? But it's training on you and your profile, right? It's learning
Yeah.
what you want. It's telling me to buy more stuff, which is not cool, but I do it anyway. Auto completion of sentences, right? I'm texting people, I'm emailing people. I'm starting to see more now where it's not just words, it's now like filling in my entire sentences. Like, oh, well, you said something similar over here, so we'll just fill it in here. Whoa, well, I didn't know that. Right? We all have smartphones. Well, you can't even see it because of my background. That's weird. But I was holding up a smartphone, my iPhone, right? Um, and those are tools. I mean, I'll say like Copilot. That term has obviously been coined with ChatGPT, Claude. More generative based, right, or searching based. It's helping to organize and clean up scattered information, right? That's probably what's at the surface right now. That's what we're able to interact with, right? Now imagine if I'm able to take tools like that and plug it in to start interacting with my own data, whether it's my company's data or my personal data, and I can quickly search for any type of information or historical data on projects, right? Of course, we need some kind of clean data management process in there. That's a whole other webinar on its own, I think, right? We don't need to get
Yep.
it. That's the idea, is being able to just pull up information instantaneously and then use it for future purposes. Like, what about, I mean, if there's any marketers, I don't know, building development
Mhm.
professionals, right? They put together proposals for jobs to owners or other contractors. Imagine having a tool, even like a chat GPT or other marketing tool, that can just quickly build proposals based on other jobs that you've done before. That could just knock out so much time in your day and just leaves you room to I guess get more creative at that point and just review other documents from there. Um,
Yeah.
there's just, go ahead. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, but there's just so much to talk about here, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've of course started at BuildOps implementing some examples of, the some of the things that you just mentioned and how you could use generative AI tools to, help with things like just content. Like a lot of folks in the office are just spending their day looking at, for example, technicians' reports from what they did on the field, looking at, job information. What did the customer originally call us about? Where was the issue? What was the issue they reported versus what the technician actually did? And using all that information to conjure up a summary essentially for the customer. Like the amount of time that is just taken by folks in the back office to process a whole bunch of information and put together a summary telling the customer exactly what was done, what was fixed, what is still potentially pending. and create something as simple as an invoice summary, right? The amount of hours that we've seen customers saving from using our invoice summary feature, which just looks at all that information, processes it, and presents it in a grammatically correct and cleans up all the colorful language that you can sometimes see, written from the field, and presents something in a very professional, grammatically correct format. Like that itself, like as simple as it sounds, has been saving our customers hours and hours. And like you said, just being able to sift through large amounts of information really quickly by asking questions. For example, one of the things that we've been sort of playing around with in the lab at the moment is how we can present vast amounts of information from asset manuals to technicians so that they can just interact with it to literally ask questions about, here's kind of the problem I'm seeing, what's typically the resolution here, or what are the different replaceable parts that, non-OEM parts that may be applicable to this asset, right? Which they would typically have to call the parts house, dictate to them the 18-20 digit serial number, and then they dig through a bunch of manuals to give them that information. So we've some of those tools that we've started playing with have already started saving our customers a lot of time.
Yeah, fast tracking, and it's always be sure to like verify the work. I'm sure you tell your customers that all the time, like, hey, we're able to produce this fairly quickly, but always go
Yeah,
back, get that second set of eyes. Nothing that's always been the process, right? It's just now
100%.
you're getting
Yeah,
that deliverable so much quicker, but still verify it, right? Before
100%.
you send it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like AI, I mean, generative AI, obviously can still hallucinate, right? That's something everyone who's played with these tools knows that, while it may take a lot of information and process it and come up with, something that's, that looks good, grammatically correct, there's always there's always the potential for it adding another sentence or a couple of words that might change the meaning of a particular sentence, right? And so, like you said, the verification is still very much needed. Um, and another application I know, Patrick, you've probably come across a lot is OCR. Do you want to maybe chime into that a little bit?
Yeah, OCR. I feel like this has maybe been in the background for quite a few years, right? And of course, with AI up to the surface again, this has brought OCR back up to the surface, right? So in construction, right, there's a lot of contractors that absolutely still use PDFs, or PDFs are still a strong tool to use, and we have takeoff tools for that, right? Well, I hope we're not printing a lot of those drawings anymore, right? Maybe we'll try and get
Hmm.
away from that and manually highlighting stuff, but I understand it still happens. But if we're using a PDF software, right, using OCR, you're essentially scanning the document and then you can extract that data from that document, right? So I'm thinking just in takeoff terms, right? All right, door type A3, I know how many are there, where are they, and highlight them in this drawing and then categorize it for me. So, that's kind of a small example, just those quantitative tools right there. And you can still go through, it's highlighting it in your drawing.
Yeah.
Then, kind of cool what you have on the screen, right? It reminds me of if you go to the back of the drawings, there's usually
Yeah.
going to be like schedules. There's going to be schedules, right? And those schedules are made in whatever software the design team is using
Hmm.
to put that together. But now we can take those schedules and then translate that into something else even further down the road, right? That's kind of what we're seeing on the screen here.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just a screenshot of something that we've been building. Like you said, being able to extract information from schedules. So that particular one, there is an example of how we could pull out asset information from the various mechanical schedules that you might have
Mm.
on a drawing, right? So think about obviously like a lot of valuable information there for the project teams, for the construction teams. But one of the use cases that really kind of pushed us to develop this use case faster and above some of the other use cases that we've seen in terms of extraction of information from drawings is a lot of our customers have both construction project divisions and then service divisions, right? And then
Yep.
so the project division completes a project, completes some installations, and then ideally the service division wants to get their hands on the maintenance contract for for all the assets that have been installed. But what we see is in a lot of cases there needs to be another technician that goes out on site, does a survey, and finds out all the asset information, which is just kind of lost somewhere. Like your construction division has it in some document, 100-page document somewhere, typically a drawing like the one you see on screen. And so what this does is obviously it helps the construction teams, basically extract the information, get into the database, but then that database is also shared with the service division. So now they know exactly what assets, what make, model, serial number have been installed on the site. So it really saves a lot of time and saves a lot of money from having to spend a couple of hours doing another survey on site. And then in case we are doing a survey on a completely new site, how do we get all the asset information in the most seamless manner? And that's what that little mobile GIF there is our OCR capabilities that was specifically built and trained around scanning asset nameplates, right? Being able to just take a picture of a nameplate and getting all the information that you need about the asset without having to, manually verify every single digit in that serial number or model number. So that saves just technicians so much time out in the field. Yeah, I don't
Stay
know,
on this.
Patrick, if you,
Yeah, stay on this slide real quick. I'm glad you brought that up.
yeah,
So shout out to any of our commissioning friends on this call, any commissioning techs, whatever you want to call yourselves, performing pre-functionals or startup procedures for mechanical equipment. Um, going through that process. I mean, I had a stint doing that as an apprentice, right? Where it was just my job to go around and collect that information. But of course, with my phone, all I did was take a picture, and that was it. It's not like I had this type of knowledge or access to technology to extract the information from those tags, literally, that we needed to then throw into a spreadsheet. Or the GC was typically like, hey, you need to populate this software because it's some kind of integrated project delivery process, like that the owner needs access to this data instantaneously. So yeah, time saver, my goodness. Just be able to take a picture of, I mean, just countless ERVs or exhaust fans or just name it, right? Anything above the ceiling that you and I mostly don't see every day of our lives on a construction site, it's up there. So I mean, this is an excellent example of how that can be utilized on a job site.
awesome. Before we proceed, Patrick, we have a question in the chat from Cecile. Have you come up with any CPM scheduling solution? Anything that can create at least the skeleton of a schedule and or present different scenarios to an existing schedule? That's an awesome use case, Cecile. So at BuildOps, we've been building a prototype of smart scheduling. Now that's not yet geared towards exactly kind of what you're talking about. We've been kind of looking at building smart scheduling around service visits and being able to assist dispatchers essentially with automatically assigning technicians based on their skills, based on the job type, based on the urgency, and based on the customer, all that information. But Patrick, have you come across any solutions that help with CBM scheduling?
Yeah, there's a few floating around. I guess we could name them on here. I mean, again, early development, right? Because the idea of scheduling, especially with CPM, that seems to be more of the popular route these days. Is you're coming into a job and there's just like early development documents, and you just want to present the most basic schedule to your owner, right? Just give everyone an idea roughly. This is our timeline. You don't want to build that from scratch, but yet you've built a project like this again and again and again over the past X amount of years. So how can you tap into that data, even with the turnover schedule in mind? So, I mean, I know like a company like Oracle. I mean, they're a pretty big name, obviously in the tech world. They've been working on a product. They have P6, right? But Now they've been integrating AI and other types of functionalities to just automate that scheduling process and to get you going from there. Something else like Analyst Technologies. I know they've been talking about this for quite a while and automating that scheduling process again, just to kind of get you off your feet and going. There's other ones out there, right? I know we're doing our best at ABC to the ABC resource guide that we referenced to just continue to keep that website updated with these are the different tools out there, and this is how they're utilizing AI. So it's getting talked about, and I mean that'll be great for schedulers, but always, always, always go back and make sure everything's in line.
Awesome. And the next one, which is even more exciting, bringing in a real physical component into AI. What are your thoughts on smart vision?
Wait a second, let's look at this picture real quick because we used this was
Yes,
Dali, right? I think we used Dali for this
this was Dolly.
or Chat GPT four, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I think we asked it something around smart vision technology on a job site, and this is what it came out with. I guess it thought, oh, a million cameras, and then just random floating holograms. Of people. I don't know. That's a smart job site, guys. That's the future of our industry right there in that picture. Who knows? But with smart vision, I always think about manufacturing. An industry like manufacturing, especially when it comes to technology, they seem to be fairly innovative and on top of quite a few things, right? How much of that technology is going to trickle down or trickle over into construction? And if you think of manufacturing with like any type of conveyor systems, right, where things are on belts flying through factory floors, they're getting scanned constantly with cameras, right? And it's to the point where it can detect some kind of widget that is a fault, right? And it can just throw it in the fault bin, right?
Mhm.
That's the type of technology, right? So translating that over into construction, right? Going back to the skilled labor thing, it's as a GC, you always want to know at least how many people on your site and definitely who's on your job site. And there's
Yeah.
processes, there's procedures in line to do that right now. It's not like it's anything new, but um, can we tap into our cameras? Most job sites probably have cameras because it's in the contract for security reasons. Um, there's technology out there to start seeing it's tracking movement, right? Like a ring camera
Hmm.
at a house, but now it can track movement. Well, can it tell me is that person wearing a hard hat? Is that person wearing a safety vest, right? Or who is that person, right? It's kind of freaky to think about, right? But again, who's absorbing that risk on a job site, right? Are they allowed to be on our job site? There's ways we can check in and check out, but where are the hot zones on our job site? Where is everybody working right now, right? Are they in a safe area? Can the cameras tell me if something unsafe is about to happen, right? Can we train AI to tell us that, right? Preventing accidents before they happen. Um, think of it like automation, right? Driverless vehicles. Of course, we might have seen some on the road already, that type of technology. Um,
Hmm.
When's it going to be on our job sites, right? We have to consider safety. If there's a driverless excavator pushing dirt around, right? It's kind of frightening to think about, but it's got
Yeah.
to be aware of its surroundings. There's probably someone always watching those cameras anyway, but it's, we want to train that technology to understand who's around me. Am I backing up? Is there somebody behind me? Right. Send out alerts. It's moving around, and things like that. So, this is something that, again, it's just, it can help with just a multitude of different things on our job site. Even I mean, there's tech that already exists for scanning job sites. Reality capture is an
Yeah.
awesome topic to talk about. And then reporting back the progress of your job, right? Oh, you took a 360 photo or LiDAR scan of this room last week. Studs were up. This week, drywall's up. It's going to tell you drywall is up in this room. Check it off in your system and then update progress. Maybe it ties into your schedule somehow, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what we can get excited about here, right? I mean, what are your thoughts, Mohit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, with everything you just mentioned, kind of overlapping with what we're seeing in the augmented reality space, I feel like there's just so much cool stuff that we're about to see, maybe in the next couple of years. I think maybe the Google Lens was just a little ahead of its time at that point and didn't really kick off. But uh, with the AI technology that exists now in terms of how videos can be processed and the information that can be extracted, like you just mentioned, from these videos, like I definitely see, augmented reality and, lenses and whatnot probably coming back maybe to the job site. Do you feel like that's too far-fetched? Do you see that happening
We
in the
have to
next couple of
ensure that it's still integrated into our workflows, right? We don't want it to
Right.
get in
Yeah.
the way because I mean we've we've all worked on job sites, hard hat, safety vests, right? And of
Yeah.
course safety glasses, right? So now are we asking people to like, oh, I need to wear
Mm,
something else now? Is that burdensome? Is that gonna cause blind spots? Right? I don't know. So it's
right.
always something to keep in mind. I know Meta last year, didn't they announce their glasses as
Yeah.
well? They look like sunglasses. So same idea. Can we just make safety glasses similar to
Hmm.
that, where it's nothing new per se, right?
Right. Awesome. Well, getting into part three of the webinar, like how do you actually choose which AI or what AI features are best for you and your company, and when? And I think the principle that we've actually been following at BuildOps when we ask this question, or when we are trying to do discovery with our customers to understand how AI can really help them, is one, look at the individual persona, look at what their job is, and think about, okay, what are the parts of this person's job that are truly productive parts of their job? What are the parts of the job that is actually making the company money versus just overhead or paperwork, things that they need to just do in order to report what they've done, right? So I think the key questions that we like asking, to summarize, are like, what do you want your team spending time doing, right, compared to what they're actually spending time doing. For a technician out in the field, obviously productive time is when they're diagnosing issues, when they're actually fixing broken pieces of equipment, or they're installing new pieces of equipment, as opposed to spending their time reporting what they actually did, right? Trying to type up long summaries of what they actually did, trying to search for information that they need to do their job. For example, looking for a manual for a particular asset, like we just talked about, looking to understand what the potential problem solution codes are for this asset. What parts would I be looking for if I cannot find the original OEM part for this asset, right? Where are they available? Like how do we surface information to technicians so that they can do their job faster, do it more efficiently, and spend their time doing the productive parts of their job, the parts that make the company money. And it's really important for us for every persona, for every role in the organization, to define what is productive use of time, right? And that's kind of where we start. Once we define what productive use of time is, we identify everything else that is not a productive use of time, right? And those are the things that we want to use AI to help, either automate or augment, or just provide tools that assist folks in the office and in the field, that can help them do their job more efficiently. Right. And a good example of this, is you can see on the screen there, is writing up a visit summary, right? Even something as simple as typing it up and then going in to make sure the grammar is correct, make sure they captured everything, make sure it's in a state that can actually be presentable to a customer. Even that just saves technicians a bunch of time, and also back in the office, from not having to correct things and just rewrite everything that the technician just put out there in the field. And so obviously, if these customer facing documents are extremely important, you want to present you want to present to the customer in the best way possible, grammatically accurate, show your professionalism out there. But do you really need to spend all that time managing it yourself, or can AI actually help do that for you? Right. I think that's kind of how we think about it. I don't know, Patrick, or any other examples that come to mind. And what are your thoughts on some of the questions and the approach that that I kind of just went through.
I mean, that's perfect, right? Just, I mean, do you have a problem? Are you trying to solve that problem, right? Don't make up a problem just to have this cool solution, right? That's always been the mantra with adopting any type of new tools or technology, and that could affect your company culture, right? Something else worth asking and thinking about is training and ongoing education with any types of new technology. So anybody on this call, clearly this is step one, right? It's just continuing to learn, right? Upskill yourself, and you want to upskill your company. Um, Talk about your employee policy, right? That's so important to include, right? If you have a IT or data security policy, right? You can do this on your work provided phone, work provided computer. Well, AI is here. What are the rules for your employees now on using AI, right? Start having that conversation, right, with your HR team or whoever helps lead that, right? And then, of course, companies like BuildOps, right? Any of your customers, I would imagine you're always willing to help educate in any way possible on not just your software, but the conversation that we're having, right? Hey, if we're using your tool, how is AI getting used, right? We just want to make sure our employees understand because they have so many questions on AI in general. So
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing that comes to mind, and and just as I was thinking through the examples that I kind of walked through, sometimes like while AI is, sounds cool and, is very, has a lot of buzz, sometimes the best use cases that maybe save the most time are pretty boring, right? It can start with just things like text, things like
Mhm.
generating content, things like, you know, surfacing information essentially in the form of insights that you would actually otherwise have to wait till the end of the month to run a report and then understand, hey, I'm off here. Like what's going on, right? My revenue is down in a particular department or in um, a particular service type, right? Those things are things that AI can help bring to your attention in advance. Um, awesome. And then Patrick, I mean, obviously you've done a lot of work in gathering a lot of resources, and with the ABC. If you want to just kind of walk through um, some resources that folks on this webinar and BuildOps customers can use.
Yeah, so we teased this kind of in the beginning of the webinar here, where ABC being the voice of the construction industry, we want to make sure that we're on top of educating everybody on at least AI. So on our website here, which I guess you guys will send out a link to it after the call, right? We just try and make it as simple as possible, right? We want end users to understand definitions, right? There's so many buzzwords: artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, generative AI. What is ChatGPT? Right? What is all that stuff, right? Because we want you to just feel comfortable in continuing to having these conversations with your peers and other professionals in and around the industry. We try and keep it specific to construction. We could go off on a rant about how AI is everywhere, but we break it down in the construction life cycle from pre-construction all the way through to building maintenance, right? And that's just like a small library of examples. Honestly, we're going through updates right now. We're updating that website, right? Because there's so many companies now starting to implement it, whether it's some kind of foundation model and they're plugging it in and using it, or are they creating something new, right? We want to continue to talk about that. And then, of course, HR policy and considerations. It's such a bigger and bigger topic that needs to come more to the forefront and just help, again, what I mentioned, educate your employees on how your company is going to use it, right? There's task force created in the federal government, right? So it's getting talked about. But if they're talking about it now, that means they're probably too late to the party, right? So if there's any regulation that's going to come out, who's going to influence that? Ultimately, it's going to be probably some of these bigger tech companies, um, Meta, like IBM, Salesforce, or something like that, where as they
Mhm.
create their own policies for creating AI, the ethical uses of it, that could be how the government decides on like the end use, right? So we just want to
Yeah.
help educate everybody on that. It's an ever evolving resource, right? We're leaning on people like you, Mohit, to help us educate the construction industry, right? So communication is key here.
Absolutely, and it's definitely a gold mine of information out there. So I'm glad folks have a place they can go to get all of this. All right, we're now at just open for questions. Essentially, if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them into the Q&A. We're happy to answer them. And if we're unable to answer them, I will quickly plug them into ChatGPT and we'll source our answers from there.
Another joke.
That one was original. I did not use any generative AI. Uh, all right. I don't see any other questions coming into. Oh, there we go. What type of AI can be utilized for extracting data from pictures? Uh, Patrick, have you used any tools for extraction from pictures?
I mean, simply put, if we have iPhones, I know when I took a picture, I can actually copy information directly out of a picture. So if you think of it that way, we actually already have the tool in hand. But when it comes to reality capture on job sites, I mean, just look at different companies like what Drone Deploy is doing, what Structure Shed and Drone Deploy are one, Open Space, right? I would look into those companies to see what they're doing with their scans, right? I know with Trimble and their lidar, I mean, Trimble does everything, right? But with reality capture, they're able to take lidar scans and so you can start extracting model data from that as well. You can clean it up, right, or add to it. So, I mean, those are just all these questions. I feel like could be their own webinar, by the way, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen a lot of, well, so there's actual models, right? The AI models that are used essentially for extracting data from pictures, and there's a lot of them, and some of them have existed even before kind of the big AI wave that we've seen over the last year or so. But uh, and then there's a lot of companies that are kind of building wrappers around those models and essentially selling products, to different customer bases depending on, depending on the different use cases, right? So I think depending on what the use case is, there might be a specific AI model or a specific company or product that you want to look at, right? So, for example, while there's a bunch of OCR applications out there, and Google's had their OCR service for a long time. But when it came to extracting asset information from nameplates, right, we found that developing and training our own model was the most effective, just because it was built specifically, for that use case. Now, a lot of that will be usable for like other use cases, but that's kind of what we've optimized it for, right? So that's why we're finding the BuildOps AI nameplate capture the most effective. So yeah, I think it really just depends on kind of what the use case is. Um, Out of the three platforms mentioned, which is best for what? Um, just just so we're clear on that question, I'm not sure if the three platforms were are we talking about the general AI platforms, Gary, or was that for a particular use case? If you don't mind just throwing that in the Q&A again. Can AI search for pricing on materials, for instance, finding aggregate quarries in Venice, Florida area?
So specific.
Very specific.
Love
So,
it.
Patrick, do you want to take the first stab at that one?
Yeah, so as far as like the procurement process goes, look in another software, there's one called Subbase. They're actually in Florida, by the way.
Mhm.
And then a company called Kojo. They kind of live in that procurement material tracking world right now. And yes, they have marketed AI and just how they're utilizing AI to help source materials, pricing, best price, and then put together orders and all that stuff. So maybe in your Venice, Florida area.
I have found I actually did kind of use Gemini to ask a couple of questions about, pricing. And as long as the information is generally available, I feel like it does do a good job of, basically processing the information that is publicly available and has been scraped. So it just the challenge is determining the accuracy of that price, right? Now, um, that's where the challenge is. You just don't know if that price that Gemini is selling you is accurate. But typically, it also shares what the source of that information is. So you could always kind of click back into the source and try to see if the information that it is getting is accurate. Um,
Yeah, I mean, tools
so
like that are easily available. I think that's great for just a quick reference point. And then if you're ultimately looking, you have your bill of material, you won't have access to the data of all time. So that start looking into other software platforms to help you track that and find pricing fluctuations over time from job to job or literally week to week, probably. And it's again based on, is it public information or is it these companies have agreements with different suppliers in your area where they can show that data to their customers, right? So,
yeah, absolutely. Uh, Thanks, Gary, for the follow-up there. I believe I missed your preluding question which was, can AI be used for market development or lead generation? And of the three platforms mentioned, which include Copilot, ChatGPT, and Claude, which is best for what? Um, uh, yeah, in terms of market development, AI is definitely used out there. Almost every marketing automation platform is now using some sort of content generation AI model, whether that's, it's built over OpenAI or Gemini, or, there's Llama 3, which is kind of Meta's AI model. It is using, one of those three models typically, or I know there's others as well, like Mistral and a bunch of others that may not be in the zeitgeist, but are definitely out there to essentially generate an marketing content and then automate those marketing emails, right? To be able to just generate based on who your target audience is and what the theme of your campaign might be, generate automatically the content that needs to be sent, and also tailor that content depending on who the actual audience is. I don't know if Patrick, you've seen um, any specific use cases or anyone using it in our industry yet.
first off, shout out to Gary bringing the heat here with all these questions. Thanks,
Yeah.
Gary. Wait, I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can answer all his questions. He's the last man standing, it looks like. But as far as the
Yeah.
specific, it's just going to vary, right? Like, again, I don't live in that development world of like, yeah, I've tested some of these, but not really like to their limit to break them necessarily. But you can ask questions side by side. You can ask it the same question, right, and see how accurate that information is. Always source it. Um, Copilot, I think, usually does a good job of sourcing its information on like this is where I found it. Others might not because it's kind of just getting information and throwing it together into one answer, right? Um, and then, I mean, you just said what was the latest tool that just came out in the past week, right? You just said it. I forgot already. Llama
Oh,
3.
Llama 3. Yes, Llama 3.
Sorry, that's brand new.
It
Okay, here
is.
we go. And then they're coming out swinging, going, "We're better than ChatGPT." Blah blah blah. Like, oh my gosh. So, but look, just test it, get in there, figure it out. Prompts, ask it questions, prompt it to do something, and that's really the hardest part. And then for the market development, connecting it to a CRM, right? There's products out there like, I mean, Constant Contact is one. I would just say look to see what those softwares are doing, right? I haven't dove deep into that world quite yet, but of course, I mean, it's already existing. Just look at how many emails I'm sure all of us get from Indeed or LinkedIn or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
It's automated based on where you are, and that ties into your last question here with the plant engineers, right? Again, that's not really a world that I've lived in, but I would think there's databases out there that exist for that. I mean, if someone has a LinkedIn account, you're guaranteed to find them where they are and what they do, and then create a little map of like, all right, here's all the positions and who they are.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary, for the questions. As we take on more questions, I'm just gonna also launch a final poll here. If you were interested in hearing more about the AI tools that BuildOps has, including some of the ones that we just covered on this webinar today, please respond to the poll, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you. And in the meantime, if there's any other questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A there. And yeah, just thinking a little bit more about Gary's question on kind of which AI is really the best. I don't know about your experience, Patrick, but I found obviously very varying results from all, I guess, the three most popular models out there, like ChatGPT, Llama 3 now, and Gemini. You might give it one question and you see Gemini does better, but then you give it another question that's completely different. ChatGPT does better. It's hard to really tell how each of them fares with like a larger data set, but I know there's also a lot of blog posts out there and a lot of people spending a lot of time to determine who's ahead in that race.
Yeah, it's some people's jobs just to, I mean, it's just coming so fast right now, right? Just trying to keep a pulse on it is hard. So, yeah, I really don't have a strong opinion one way or the other on which tool is like, you have to use this one. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you subscribe to Netflix and not Apple TV? Well, no, I use both because they
Mhm.
have, just because of how they're set up, I want to use both because they have what I want, right? So it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the good thing I think for this for contractors and in general for a lot of industries out there is um there's companies like us who are kind of trying to do the work for you, right? We're trying to look at who the what the best model is, and what on which applications does it work best, and then building tools, either using some of these models, or we figure that hey, none of these models really work for the use case that we're trying to solve, and then we build our own, right? Uh, to get basically the best results based on the use case. We continue to experiment with different ways of doing the information extraction from project drawings, like we talked about, including how do we extract a bill of materials, right? We talked about assets a little bit, but we could get really deep in there, and that's one of the things that we're playing around with. How do we extract an entire bill of materials, all of the stuff that you might need for the duration of the project? So yeah, we're here to do a lot of the work for you. Awesome. With that, I think we are at the top of the hour. Thank you everyone for joining in today. Been a pleasure spending a little time and talking about one of my favorite current topics as everyone's. Patrick, thank you so much. I really appreciate spending this time with you. And yeah, looking forward to doing this again maybe sometime.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you. And anybody on the call now or on the recording, if they listen to it later, don't hesitate to reach out to either of us. Honestly, right? More than happy to help and learn from what you're trying to do, what you're already doing. I mean, there's some companies that are they're doing some cool stuff with AI at their own construction company. So I want to learn about that as well.
Awesome. And just as a quick reminder, we will be emailing the link to the deck and the video here, along with a few other resources. So keep look out for that. Thank you again, everyone, for joining in, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Patrick.
Have a great one.